I think this is one of the things that nobody thinks in the way of targeting people.
I am coming from a place where I have spent crores of rupees.
Hi guys, before we begin, I want to mention that this video is longer than usual, so please change the speed of this video as per your convenience and refer to the topics that interest you more directly from the timeline below. Lastly, please like and subscribe. And now, let's begin. Hi guys, welcome to Raw Talks episode 8, and I finally have Gopal here with me. When we talk about marketing, he's one of the guys that I have a thought of. So, first of all, Gopal, thank you so much for accepting my invite.
Awesome, awesome. Hi, Raghav. Sure, it's a pleasure to be on your podcast. Amazing. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. So Gopal, I wanted to ask first because this entire podcast is oriented to marketing strategies to be very specific. Which industry are we gonna tear down today?
So I have extensive experience of working across various high ticket product services categories or industries, we can say. Specifically, we might want to speak about real estate because real estate is an industry that has been adapting online or digital budgets for a very long time now. So in the early 2000s, digital used to be around 5 to 7% of the overall marketing budget of a plus list player in the real estate industry. That has gone substantially up to around 58 to 60% today. So yes, real estate has evolved wonderfully with the digital industry taking foothold when it comes to sales and marketing. So yeah, why not we discuss real estate marketing?
Right, absolutely. So, my first question for the audience would be to get started with learning what are the pain points for somebody who is a player in the real estate industry, for somebody who is a biggie in the real estate industry. What are the pain points from the business perspective? Why do people want to target their business online? And what is the pain point that they see is not working well for them?
So any developer, big or small, or even for that matter, channel partner. So in real estate industry, there are multiple players running the show. So a developer is essentially a builder, or the developer is essentially the company or a person who is constructing the product and initiating sales. A channel partner is essentially someone who is helping the developer sell the units in a systematic manner. So both of them want to understand who their target audience is and be very specific with their messaging and only reach out to people who they think would be fit for the product that they are coming up with. So most of it is budget driven because buying a home essentially is something that is a dream come true for most of the people, not only in India but across the world. And it is a one-time activity for most of the audiences. So yes, there are investors and there are HNI clients who would buy multiple properties in their lifetime. But for an average Indian or for an average person, buying a home is a once in a lifetime. So it's like getting married. So it happens for them, it's a very strategic decision that they have to take. So these developers and channel partners, they'll have to ensure that they nail their audience so that they optimize their budgets and reach the audience and get the results that they want to get from the budget that they have assigned for this particular project or a complex or a township, whatever they are coming up with.
Right.
So yes, identifying the audience and optimizing their messaging according to who their audience is something that many people find very challenging in today's time.
So I think this is one of the things that nobody thinks in the way of targeting people. Initially, when they begin their advertising campaigns, the one most important thing is what you're saying. auditing the or defining the messaging as per the consumer is one of the things that people do not consider. They consider the same ad copy for all the people that they are targeting, which is not a good practice. Personalization, the more we are getting into the growth marketing concepts, we are getting into the personalization concept. We are making sure that if suppose your audience is more into finance, you'll have a financial or you'll have a financially strong written copy that drives them to where their interest belongs. This is what we are currently saying. Correct, Gopal?
Right. So, for let's say, for example, there is a product in the outskirts of the city. Okay. So essentially, we are then talking about an affordable product because it's in the outskirts of the city. So we are primarily targeting people whose family income should not be more than 40,000-50,000 rupees. They might fall in a bracket of anywhere from, let's say, 25 to 45. So why I'm saying 25 to 45 is because most of these buyers also take home loans. So you'll have to be considerate of the fact that the person should also be eligible to have a loan. But that does not mean that you take the same message across to a 25-year-old and then pass on the same message to a 45-year-old. So a 25-year-old guy would be at a very different stage in his life today as compared to that of a 45-year-old. A 25-year-old might not even be married, and he might be looking out for something for an investment. So he or she might be staying next to the workplace at the center of the town or with family, with parents, and they might just be securing their future by investing something for their future when they get married, when they have kids. Whereas a 45-year-old might already have matured kids who he might already have his budgets allocated. He might be having to spend whatever he's earning optimally to ensure that he finally also has a home, which is a dream come true for him. So the messaging has to be very different for different demographics, even the assets for that matter. I mean, from a very different standpoint. So, so there are two kinds of strategies that in marketing we broadly talk about: pull and push. So Google Ads essentially being a pull strategy platform, and Facebook, Instagram, and other social media platforms being a push strategy platforms. So even your assets that you create. So let's say, for example, if a person is actively searching for a property in a platform such as Google, the asset that you create for that particular platform is going to be very different from that of an asset that you create for a push platform, like say, for example, a Facebook or a Instagram. Right. So let's say, for example, someone is looking for a property and has come to Google. Now you will not know what ticks for that particular searcher. So the list of amenities might tick, the attractive pricing might tick, the fact that you have a one-touch communication, WhatsApp communication channel might tick, the fact that you have an EMI calculator on your microsite might tick. So on a platform such as Google, you need to create an asset. When I say an asset, I mean a landing page or a microsite. You need to create something very broad. So you present everything in front of your audience or the searcher, and understand what ticks for that particular searcher. Whereas when you're creating a landing page for, let's say, for example, a Facebook or an Instagram, you will have to carry a theme. So let's say, for example, if I have understood that the 25 to 45 age group is the audience that I'm targeting, of course, obviously, I will also take into consideration various interests and behaviors, etc. But purely from a demographic standpoint, I will have a separate landing page for a person who's aged between 25 to 28, and a separate landing page for a person who's in his late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah.
And I will take that theme into the landing page as well. So I am going to interrupt his experience on that platform. Mm-hmm. I believe that this is the stage at which he is in his or her life right now, and this is the messaging that I want to convey. And if that ticks with that person, he or she is going to give us further information so that we can communicate with them accordingly and take that conversation ahead. Many of them are not doing this right now. So at the most, they create one landing page, they select broad demographics, and they use the same asset, a landing page or a microsite, across all platforms. which is where you end up spending a lot of money for generating. So why that is still working, I will also tell you that, because we are dealing in high ticket size industry. So you can justify, so instead of spending 15 rupees, if you're spending 150 rupees, you're still able to justify that cost to the developer because he's earning in lakhs. Yeah. So which is why people are not taking a lot of effort to optimize their particular campaign based on platforms that they work on. But that has to change. So if you want to evolve, and if you want to give a more sophisticated service in the industry that you belong, you will have to go ahead and innovate. So yeah.
All right. There is a lot of comprehensive details that are given by Gopal. I'll just summarize it up really quickly. First of all, guys, push and pull marketing has been done in the podcast when I talked about e-commerce marketplace, and you can refer the I button for that is coming on the screen. So push and pull marketing is something that I'll not be covering in great detail because already it has been covered. I will be prominently focusing upon Gopal saying that we need to confine the group and the landing page with the messaging that brings into the picture of the complete funnel, which is what we call a funnel activity. So a landing page is a basic page that actually is very confined to the messaging. So suppose somebody is coming with real estate in Delhi. So this person is actually into the awareness or interest funnel. Unless they look out for pricing, unless they look out for something that is very specific into the intent way, pricing per square meter price in suppose a very specific area, they go into the desire section. And if they are searching for with a word like buy, if the word like I want to get, or anything that is oriented to when they particularly say or intend to buy the product, then this goes into the lower funnel. And even the funnel type of messaging is very much confined to the landing pages. We also try to build a funnel that actually portrays best the demographic. So in Gopal, you can correct me if I am wrong somewhere. When we talk about messaging, Facebook gives you the option of targeting people from, let's say, 19 to 21. But Google does not allow on the search platform to target you very specifically. They gave you age range. So 18 to 25, like 18 to 24, 25 to 34, and so on and so forth. They give you brackets. So there you need to be more specific as for the keyword than for the age group. Correct, Gopal?
Yes, and also the audience network. So Google also allows you to, categorize your audience in a systematic manner. So you can either go with the targeting strategy or the observation strategy. Right. So when you select targeting, you are now specifically able to target either renters or homeowners.
Right.
Okay. So if my product is a first home, so I might want to target first home owners, which means if I select renters as my target audience on Google, I am now specifically targeting people who are staying on rent, right, and who are looking for buying their first home. Yeah. Whereas if I have a property which is in the outskirts of the city, or if I'm promoting a second home, then I might want to specifically target homeowners, people who are already settled in the heart of the city, people who might now want to look out for a weekend housing kind of a plan. So Google as a platform allows me to explore all of these opportunities that Facebook essentially does not. Facebook does not have these filtrations very specific as that of Google. But yes, I am very happy that you touched down on the demographics part at Google as well. So excluding demographics is also very important. So as we all know, Google. At Google, we spend substantially more as compared to Facebook or Instagram for that matter. So it's very important that we are very laser targeted when it comes to our audience. So if let's say for example, there is a college student who is writing a thesis or who is doing a case study on real estate market in India, and he happens to search for your keyword, there is no way he's going to buy your property. He's now aged between 18 to 24.
Yeah.
If your ad is active for that age group, then you're leaking money.
Right.
Because you have to continuously evolve from what you understand of your product and your target audience. You'll have to continuously optimize your campaign across all of these platforms. So if your ad is active for a 18-year-old to see on Google, and if you're spending 150, 200 rupees per click, you are definitely leaking money. So you should never do that. You'll have to understand your target audience, and you'll have to ensure that you have all the criteria plugged into that platform before you hit that publish button.
Right. So, Gopal, I alongside with this have a question regarding this. Like where we particularly talk about we should exclude this segment of age. With search, we also see some of the cases where because the heavily well-settled audience, like be it any age group that crosses 45, let's say, is not definitely, I'm being very politically correct here, is not definitely literate enough to go ahead and research across the internet for many parts of India. So in that cases, they ask their child, which is belonging to the age group of 18 to 24 or 18 to 25, to go ahead and do a research on their behalf. This not only happens in the industry of real estate, this also happens in the case of insurance sector, when life insurance sector, this is a very prominent thing. So do you think considering exclusion is a very good strategy to do? Because even using of a mobile phone, the coming up generation is very much active and facilitating their parents for doing the research. Even I did when I was 18. So I still do it even now. So do you think it's a feasible strategy? Because intent is where keyword lies and not the demographics when it comes about search. But I totally agree with what you said on Google Display Network, that homeowners and renters and the display targeting is very much specific and should be laid out as a fundamental when we talk about age group specifying or age group excluding. But do you think this is the same for Google search?
So, I am coming from a place where I have spent crores of rupees experimenting a lot of things across all platforms for a lot of real estate projects pan-India.
Yes.
What it tells me is suddenly when you're about to make a 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 1 CR kind of a decision, you might ask as you rightly said, you might ask your children to do the research for you. But you will also definitely, so when you have a product which you believe is suited for people who are aged between 50, 60, 65, I would do a lot of research from a keyword standpoint. So these guys, they probably they are not very conversant with English language.
Right.
They might learn how to use the platform along with their children, with the help of their children, but they might never be able to use the language properly. Right. So I have a lot of variations of keywords for them. Okay, so they might not be able to spell certain things in a certain way, but Google with their search term keyword intelligence that they share over a period of time help us understand that this is what people are typing and they are not typing proper English. So as a marketer, it is very important for you to observe those cues, because eventually the money has to come out of the 55, 60-year-old guy. He might be asking his or her son or daughter to do the research for you, but they will never go ahead and hand over those 15, 20 lakh rupees to a developer or a channel partner based on the research done by the child.
Right.
Right. So they would want to understand how they are doing it, and they would want to do it themselves. What happens when they are doing it is what, as a marketer, I am more interested in. So I understand that they learn running how to do that search and how to analyze things online, but they are not very proper or they are not very punctual with the language. Yeah. So for them, we add a lot of variations in keywords so that even if they misspell, if they do something very strange, bizarre, but if we are giving Google cues to understand that this is what they're looking for, then we latch on to that audience. That helps better than targeting the 18 to 24. This is basically from an experience standpoint. I mean, for people, this might yield different results, but for real estate, this is how it has worked for us.
Nice. Just for a clarity, misspelling, when Gopal talked about misspelling, what we see in a forgery product, the spelling of the brand is what he's particularly talking about. So Adidas, if spelled as Abibas, is supposed to be a misspelling because literate, like well-educated, spelling-oriented audience does not do this mistakes. But when you're targeting someone who's not that proficient in the language, you target misspelling. Gopal, I would like to take this forward because I want to understand the funnel. So when we talk about, we got the acquisition side of you already now.
Right.
Booking of a high ticket does not happen online entirely. Like, I'm very skeptical about somebody would go and do a transaction of 50 lakhs on internet for buying a property that they have not seen. So first thing that goes into the mind of a consumer is having the look at the property and booking a lead for booking a visit to that site, to be very specific. And there are two types of site. Suppose one is owned by an individual and wants to resell that. And the second one is the entire site that is newly constructed and well built and as per the modern day aesthetics of the property building. So I would like, this question has two parts. First, do you think that booking visits is the challenge, or booking visit is where we orient the call to action for? And second, does that call to action or does that fundamental vary for a reselling property and a newly built property? Over to you.
So yes, booking visits. So if you run an if your campaign is well optimized and if you have a laser specific target audience and if you're communicating properly, then having them click on that call to action button and committing you a date and time for a visit is not a challenge. Them keeping their word them keeping their word that they are going to come at this point of day, at this point of time, is a challenge.
Okay.
So, 2020 has brought a lot of learning for a lot of guys. For us, this has been a revolution in terms of running campaigns and selling homes in the real estate industry. I'll be very honest with you. So now what has happened? So we kind of tried our level best to ensure that when we are driving people, so there, as you rightly pointed out, there are multiple ways of having a client or a prospect converted into a lead. So you can have their name and number, and then you can have a inside sales team call them and schedule their appointment and get them to the site by continuous follow-up. Or at the lead generation stage, you can have them fill up their preferred date and time, and then have an automated follow-up that keeps reminding them that this is their token number. There is this person who's going to be waiting at the site for them at this point. So basically, what you're doing with this extended kind of an online arrangement with the prospect is you're building his accountability. So right. Suddenly you're giving him a unique token number, and you're giving him the name of the person who will be meeting him at that date or on that time when he has selected his site visit. Yeah. It helps to a certain extent, but in India, people are not very diligent with whatever promises they have made in terms of the time commitments that they give. So what happened due to this pandemic situation that has occurred in 2020 was we were able to now identify a very different and an effective way of selling homes online. Right. So earlier in the 2018 and the 2019s, I have seen A-list developers deploy this strategy. I have not been directly in touch with any of those developers to understand how well it worked for them. What used to happen was people used to collect tokens online. So let's say, I remember Tata doing this in 2018-19. They ran an extensive campaign where they asked people to pay 25,000 rupees online towards blocking a home. And then they used to arrange their site visit and get them to have a look at the property, get a senior sales manager, explain them everything, and then eventually convert that 20,000 into a 2 lakh and then home loan registration and so on and so forth. We did not know if that worked for them then, but it has certainly worked for us very well now. So I have been a very close observer of the Digital Marketers Lab, the kind of community that runs. So I'm also part of that community that is very active in United States. There, the founder of Digital Marketing Lab, Ryan Dees.
Yeah.
So he has come up with a concept. I first heard it from him about a lead magnet, a tripwire, and then the final product that you eventually want to sell. So that is the strategy that I have applied on certain projects that we are doing online today, wherein we have introduced a lead magnet in our landing page. And then so for the people who are converting at that level, we've introduced a tripwire, which is essentially a 10, 15, 20, 25,000 rupees commitment. And when the guys who are converting at that level, we are then taking them to the eventual closure of buying the home. So yes, we experimented this extensively over the past 6 months, and this has worked wonderfully well for a lot of developers where we have implemented this strategy. So that worked very well.
The people who are not clear about lead magnet, tripwire, and closing, I have the details of the basic definition in the description below. Go ahead and read that. And if you have any doubt at any point or any strategy that Gopal has laid down and is not clear, please comment down below and I'll make sure Gopal answers to that, right?
Sure. Why not?
So I'll take this further, Gopal. So the part of a developer who has a newly built site is clear. Would you put down something for somebody who already owns a home and wants to sell it, so that something oriented to that, because a second-hand home selling, or what do you call it, is already built site to be considered for sale, is also a site that has evolved from OLX Quicker to actual plots like magicbricks.com, real estate,
right.
99 real estate, or real estate acres, so to be very specific. It has evolved from those platforms dependent to individual dependent. Would you like to put down something, a quick discussion for that?
So a basic Facebook or an Instagram ad with geo targeting would work wonderfully well, and also posting your properties on relevant groups on these social media platforms would also help understand how people are interested in this particular property. I would refrain from going to Google as a platform to sell a resale property because the intent is very specific in Google. Having said that, when you're ready to buy a home, you are exploring a lot of options.
Right.
So as a reseller, as someone who already owns this only one property or only a set of these properties, I might not be able to justify the cost that I am about to be spending on a platform such as Google. However, with a specific geo-targeting kind of a campaign that I run on Facebook and Instagram, the cost per click, cost per acquisition of the lead is not going to hurt me as much via those platforms.
Right.
So, I am not a very big fan of interest. I'll be very honest with you. I am of the belief that on platforms such as Facebook and Instagram, interest is driven by the audience. So the audience define what they are interested in. And the audience are especially only, I have not worked extensively in international markets. Most of my experiences has been working in Indian market. I am of the opinion that Indian audience is not very specific, or they are not telling us clearly what they are interested in at any specific point of time. So let's say, for example, I am just scrolling, some real estate ad interests me. I might not be in the market to buy a property right now, but just because the marketer did a very good job in attracting my attention, I have clicked on that ad. Suddenly now Facebook thinks that I'm interested in buying a property. Yeah. So I might not be very keen on buying that property, but then a lot of marketers are going to target me and waste their budgets on me.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I am more of a fan of behaviors on these platforms. So more often than not, you would find me adding some strategic behavioral, traits to my Facebook or Instagram campaigns, and those are working really well as compared to that of interest. So while reselling a property, I would suggest have a specific geo target in place. Understand that at what stage or at what budget do you want to sell your property in, so that if it's still an affordable segment property, then you might want to attract younger audiences as well. But if your property is more into the aspirational or a luxury kind of a segment, then you might want to eliminate people who are just starting out, who are just trying to have their foot in the professional world, and target more matured audience, and also have these behavioral traits. So Facebook allows you to target people who have an affinity to buy high value goods, or mid to high value goods. So these are the behaviors that you might want to add.
I don't think in any of the podcasts I have talked about audience refining like the way I have in this one. And thank you so much, Gopal, for this. My last question for summarizing this up will be from the freelancer or somebody who's beginning into this industry and wants to target specifically the real estate audience. I would like your guidance for somebody who is a freelancer to get into the real estate industry and nail it without failing it. So I totally have a belief that we need to fail in order to learn, but we can be more careful and specifically with the cost. So anything very specific for a guidance to where to start with, what to learn, and what are the things to be avoided over here? So don'ts.
Right. So for anyone who's starting with real estate marketing, or let's say, for example, a channel partner, I would suggest that you start with a brand, a well-known brand. So let's say, for example, in Mumbai, you have the Godrej's and the Lodhas of the world. In Bangalore, South side, we have Casa Grande and Sobha. So you have A-list developers in every city that you go. So you might always want to start with those guys selling their properties or marketing their properties, because they also have a offline budget normally. So they have a launch budget. What that does is that it complements with your marketing efforts. So they might place a huge hoarding at the center of the city, or they might have a jacket front page ad or something that will attract a lot of eyeballs.
Right.
What essentially happens is that when they spend that money on branding, people usually want to search or know more about it online, and they come to a platform such as Google. So anyone who wants to start in this industry should ignore social media platforms and should focus only on Google Ads platform. Because if they associate themselves with an A-list developer, and if the A-list developer is spending money offline or is spending money on the company's brand, then it becomes easier for you to target keywords related to that brand on Google and attract audiences via Google Ads, and then further service them. What happens is when you target on these brand keywords are slightly less. It will cost you slightly less as compared to generic keywords online. Also, because they are spending a lot of money and they have the firepower to do that, it becomes easier for you to explain the product further and drive site visits.
Right.
So definitely do not touch Facebook, Instagram to start with. Always get your hands dirty with Google Ads. Get associated with a brand who is also spending money offline heavily.
Yeah.
And once you have your hands dirty, once you've tasted success with Google Ads, and once you have money or budget in your hand from what you have already earned from this campaign that you have run, take that money to a social media platform and then learn and scale from there.
Right.
So that's my suggestion to anyone who's starting new with real estate marketing.
Right. I think one of the add-ons I would like to say is that people who refrain the visit, people who do not want to go for the visit or have become a lead for a visit but have not actually gone through that. I have seen YouTube ads to be very specific for. I would not say the name of the channel, but one such thing is that they go and they actually have a salesperson giving you a virtual tour of the entire house.
Right.
This is for the bigger properties though, but I have generally seen this as evolving as a remarketing strategy. And this also gives a bonus point for the publicity for that YouTube videos and the YouTube channel.
Mhm.
So in two ways, you get organic reach enhancements as well, because your YouTube channel will automatically grow if that video is well structured and in a very much good quality of how you look or overall look of the property looks like. And you will get the reach to that specific person who wants to be retargeted or has become a lead and has not visited the site. You're giving them a potentially edge that this is the property that you're missing. So I hope that makes sense to you, Gopal. This as a strategy.
I'll be very honest with you. 80% of monies earned in this industry is via retargeting.
Yeah.
So retargeting is like the absolute Bible. So no one converts the first time, and especially with high ticket size products, you'll have to continuously hammer and be on the top of their minds if you want them to consider your offering. So, and we do a lot of cross-channel remarketing campaigns as well. So you might have audiences. So you have high-intent audiences who come to your microsite via Google Ads.
Right.
Now, Facebook offers you to retarget that specific audience at 1/10 of the cost.
Right.
And while doing this, you also have to ensure that you're not over-irritating them by constantly being in front of their eyes, just so that they kind of have click a couple of things and hide you from their timeline. But you have to be very strategic from a retargeting standpoint. Yes, YouTube ads, amazing. People like to see real people with real life examples while they're listening to, while they're viewing videos. So all your customer testimonials, your sales manager giving a product pitch, all of these recordings work wonderfully well for retargeting clients online.
Right.
Do cross-channel remarketing. It's very important. All your Facebook audiences, at some point of time, if you're doing things correct, they are going to head to Google to understand more about you. Your ad has to be seen there as well.
Right.
Your Google audiences, people who are actively searching for a property, who land on your microsite, spend a lot of time surfing on social media. You have to be seen there as well. So remarketing is like the Bible of real estate marketing. Without remarketing, you will never be able to be a very good real estate marketer.
All right. Just to add on to this, there are three main propositions that sell that is specifically for a high ticket. First, when you talk about high ticket, the pricing sensitivity is one of the major concerns for all the audiences that are going to go through. So having an easy EMI or no cost EMI or any association with a bank that gives you easy loans is one of the propositions that can be sold. Second comes about urgency. When even a high ticket pricing is about to go out of stock or about to go around for a limited time period, for let's say for an Independence Day sale, this is going to be wrapped up for this property. So this is one of the urgencies that we create. The third option is specific for getting, let's say you run across a campaign that actually helps an add-on. So fully furnished works alongside the security enhancements which is offered by Godrej, to be very specific, in Greater Noida area, is offered as an enhancement. If you book from this time period to this time period, this goes around with additional security features like lock enhancement, smart digital lock, face recognition, and CCTV cameras. So these are the three propositions that I feel, and I have analyzed over the time period, that these three are some essentials that are marketed in a way that brings out the proposition side. Anything you would like to add, Gopal?
So there are tons of offers that a lot of developers add on to their primary offering. And this is something that I always kind of speak with when I'm doing a lot of developer meetings. People think offer sells, okay, and offer sells to a certain point. But when you're associated with a physical industry like a real estate industry where look and feel matters a lot,
right,
product is something that must capture their interest first.
Right.
Okay, if they are hooked to the product, the offer will then help them to
Uh, get it
take
sold.
that decision quickly.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, I like a 2 crore rupees property in Greater Noida. They do not have any offer, and then I go further ahead to a different sector and I see a 2.3 CR property, and these guys have very relevant and very complementary list of add-ons. Let's say 5 list of add-ons, which is relevant to the product and it is complementing the product well.
Right.
That is going to tilt my preference or my decision towards that product. So I might be spending 30 lakh rupees more today, but I am getting list of 5 add-ons that is complementing the primary product very well. So primary product should be set in the buyer's mind. So if you build the right product and if the product is attracting a lot of audience, then having the right list of add-ons and offers will complement your product, the primary offering. So I just couple of minutes I want to touch down on this. So I have classified the industry into 3 different categories: luxury, aspirational, and affordable. So when you're targeting luxury audiences, exclusivity matters a lot. So let's say, for example, you have an ultra luxury 7, 8, 10 BHK kind of a setting, or a farmhouse, or a nice koti or something, which only a certain segment of audiences are going to be ever interested in. The more you talk about the exclusivity of that particular product, the more you are going to be able to capture their attendance. Their attention, because that's what matters to them. So they can go ahead and buy 120 lakh rupee properties, but it is all generic. They want something exclusive, something that they can call limited edition of their own.
Yeah.
When you're targeting aspirational audience, so aspiration audience are audiences that essentially buy 60, 70, 80 lakh, 1 crore, 1.5 crore kind of properties. For them, value for money matters a lot, and you'll have to create the correct kind of urgency and scarcity.
Right.
So value for money. So let's say, for example, currently I'm staying on rent, I'm paying 30,000 rupees rent. I'm doing that for the fact that my office or my place of work is like 5-7 minutes from here. So yes, this 80 lakh rupee property is 30 lakh rupees more expensive than if I have to travel half an hour back from here. But I am going to pay that 80 lakh rupees because I still want the convenience of staying next to where I work. So that is the value for money I'm looking for. Oh my God, there are only so many inventories available at this price in this particular project. So I might as well grab this opportunity right now. Otherwise, I might be forced to go back half an hour and look for some property. I don't mind buying that cheaper property, but I am not very convenient, or it is not going to be convenient for me to travel half an hour to place of work. Now, for the affordable guys, for them, you will have to make it a no-brainer. It has to be extremely easy. But you will have to tell them, boss, you just come, you sign these documents, these 8-10 documents. We will do your home loan. We will ensure that we will let you know the list of questions the loan officer is going to ask, what you have to answer, how you want to answer. We will ensure that your registration happens properly. We will ensure that the document reaches your home. We will ensure that we get the loan disbursed from your bank.
Yeah.
We will ensure that the money reaches the developer. They don't want to take any action. The very fact that they have a small amount of budget and they have very little knowledge about this buying process, because as I said, the affordable audiences, for them, this is going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right.
Of buying their own home. So you'll have to handhold them through this process. So you have to understand what product you are marketing, and your messaging then has to be according to the product that you are marketing.
This beautiful concept that you have laid down in the end of this conversation has been the most resourceful thing that I've ever heard in this podcasting. And that's all from my end, Gopal. Thank you. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Pleasure is all mine, Raghav. Thank you so much for having me today.
I think nobody could ever define real estate marketing as beautifully and as crisp, in the crisp way that you have actually laid down as a fundamental. Nobody could actually do that. So I'm very much thankful, and so my audience will be. Guys, if you are appreciative of the fact of how much Gopal has taken the pain to explain all the journeys, all the types of audiences, and all the propositions as well, please thank him in the comment rather. And thank you, Gopal. It was a pleasure hosting you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Raghav. Thank you.
And that was Gopal talking about all the possibilities of how you can break down and formulate a real estate marketing strategy. I hope this video was insightful and resourceful. I'll see you in more such coming videos. Please make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in more such videos full of learnings.